Have you ever felt like no matter how kind you are, people still take you for granted? You give, you accommodate, you bend over backwards to be liked, and yet respect always seems just out of reach. It's a painful realization, but one that history has whispered to those who are willing to listen. The world does not reward kindness, it rewards strength. Society has conditioned us to believe that being loved is the highest form of security, that if we're agreeable, generous, and accommodating, people will reciprocate with loyalty. But what they never tell you is that love is conditional, fragile, and fleeting. The affection you earn today can be undone in an instant. A single mistake, a moment of perceived weakness, and suddenly the love you built collapses like a house of cards. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this brutal truth over 500 years ago. In The Prince, he posed the question that haunts every leader. Is it better to be loved or feared? His answer: fear lasts longer. Love is a luxury, but fear is a necessity. Love can turn to betrayal, but fear commands obedience. A ruler who is loved today may be overthrown tomorrow, but one who is feared ensures that even his enemies hesitate before making a move. But let's be clear, this isn't about cruelty or tyranny, it's about respect. The kind of respect that doesn't waver in the shifting winds of emotion. The kind of presence that forces people to think twice before undermining you. The kind of authority that commands space, not through arrogance but through undeniable presence. History has seen countless leaders who built their rule on affection only to be devoured by those closest to them. Julius Caesar, adored by the people of Rome, met his end at the hands of his own Senate, men who once called him a friend. John F. Kennedy, a leader of charisma and vision, was struck down not by enemies abroad, but by forces within his own nation. Kindness did not save them. Admiration did not protect them, because love is a fragile shield against the ambitions of those who seek power. And so the hard truth emerges. Strength commands respect. Strength demands loyalty. And strength, when wielded with precision, is the only true protection against betrayal. But how do you wield it? How do you ensure that respect does not turn into hatred? How do you maintain authority without becoming a tyrant? The answer lies in understanding the balance of fear and respect. This is where true power is born, not in empty aggression, but in the mastery of human nature itself. And this is where we go deeper. In the next section, we unravel why kindness, when left unchecked, is not a virtue. It is an invitation to exploitation. Why kindness alone will always be exploited. Have you ever wondered why the kindest people are often the most mistreated? You see it everywhere. At work, in relationships, in history. The ones who offer the most, who go out of their way to please, are the ones who are trampled on first. Society preaches kindness, but in practice it punishes it. This isn't just an unfortunate coincidence, it's human nature. Psychologists call it the doormat effect. When someone is too accommodating, others subconsciously start viewing them as expendable. It's not necessarily malicious, it's an inherent response to weakness. The moment you present yourself as someone who will always say yes, people stop valuing your generosity. Instead, they begin testing how much they can take before you break. Machiavelli warned of this reality centuries ago. He observed that leaders who sought to be loved above all else were always the first to fall. History confirms this. Julius Caesar was adored by the Roman people, yet he was stabbed by those closest to him. Tsar Nicholas II of Russia was a kind ruler, too hesitant to act decisively, and he lost both his empire and his life. John F. Kennedy, a leader of charm and goodwill, was brought down not by foreign enemies, but by forces within his own borders. These were not cruel men, they were not tyrants, but they made one fatal mistake. They underestimated the opportunism of human nature. Human beings, by design, test limits. We see it in children. If a parent never enforces rules, the child pushes boundaries until discipline is imposed. The same applies to power. If you don't define your limits, others will define them for you. Kindness, when left unchecked, becomes a vulnerability. It is only respected when it is paired with strength. The moment people realize there are no consequences for betraying your goodwill, they will take advantage of it. Not out of pure malice, but because survival instincts push them towards self-interest. This is why true leaders understand that power is not given, it is enforced. You do not demand respect. You command it through presence, action, and decisive boundaries. History is filled with examples of indulgence leading to downfall. Neville Chamberlain believed diplomacy would prevent Hitler's aggression. His kindness and appeasement led to World War II. King Louis XVI of France hesitated to enforce order. Believing in the goodwill of his people, he was executed by those he once ruled. Even in modern times, CEOs who lack firm decision-making are removed by their boards the moment their kindness is perceived as indecisiveness. Kindness alone is not protection. It is an invitation. It signals that you will not retaliate, will not enforce boundaries, and will not take action. And in a world driven by power and self-preservation, that is an invitation to be used. But does this mean you should abandon kindness altogether? The answer lies in balance. Kindness must be measured, given sparingly, paired with firm boundaries. It must be an asset, not a weakness. Respect is stronger than affection. The difference is simple. People like those who are kind, but they respect those who demand it. A leader who is respected will be followed, even in moments of unpopularity. A leader who is only loved will be abandoned at the first sign of crisis. If you want to be truly unshakable, you must shift your focus from seeking love to commanding respect. And that respect does not come from kindness alone. It comes from a carefully maintained balance of power. And this is where we dive deeper. How do you master the balance of fear and respect? How do the greatest leaders use this to build unshakable authority? That's exactly what we explore next. The balance of fear and respect. Have you ever noticed that the most respected people are often the ones others are slightly afraid of? Not terrified, just enough to make them think twice before crossing a line. That's because true authority isn't built on fear alone, nor on love. It's built on a precise balance between the two. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. In The Prince, he argued that a ruler must be both feared and respected, but if forced to choose between the two, fear is the safer option. Why? Because love is unreliable. It fades, it shifts, it depends on emotion. But fear, when properly controlled, ensures obedience even when emotions change. A mistake many make is assuming that fear means cruelty. It doesn't. Julius Caesar ruled with charisma and kindness, but without enough fear to keep his own senators from turning on him. Napoleon Bonaparte, on the other hand, inspired respect through strength, strategy, and unpredictability. His men feared disappointing him, but they also revered his genius. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, maintained a delicate balance. His wisdom commanded respect, but his decisive authority ensured no one mistook his kindness for weakness. The difference? Fear that turns into hatred breeds rebellion. Fear that is balanced with respect creates loyalty. A leader who is merely feared will eventually be overthrown. A leader who is only loved will be ignored. But a leader who controls fear without cruelty and earns respect without submission becomes unstoppable. People don't follow power for its own sake. They follow it because they perceive consequences. The best leaders don't just impose authority, they make others believe that crossing them has an undeniable cost. Sun Tzu wrote in The Art of War that a leader should be formless, unpredictable in their reactions, never allowing others to anticipate their next move. Robert Greene, in The 48 Laws of Power, emphasizes the necessity of strategic unpredictability. Keeping others slightly uncertain ensures they never take you for granted. Miyamoto Musashi, the legendary samurai, stated that the warrior who is feared is not the one who strikes first, but the one who is always prepared to strike when necessary. This is why consistency is not always an asset in leadership. If people know exactly how you will react, they can manipulate you. The key is controlled unpredictability. Many rulers have fallen into the trap of believing that the more fear they instill, the more secure they become. History proves otherwise. Genghis Khan was feared across continents, but he tempered his brutality with a structured system of laws that won the respect of his people. Stalin, on the other hand, ruled entirely through terror. His paranoia turned against him, and his legacy is one of fear, but not respect. Julius Caesar's assassins justified their betrayal by claiming he had grown too powerful. This is where mastery of balance is crucial. A leader must be firm, but never oppressive. They must be respected, but never too predictable. The most powerful people in history didn't have to demand respect. They commanded it through presence, action, and precision. They knew when to act decisively and when to remain silent. They let others fear disappointing them rather than fearing punishment itself. They ensured that their kindness was seen as a privilege, not a right. The result? Unshakable authority. A presence that does not beg for recognition, but is acknowledged instinctively. Fear and respect alone are not enough. The true masters of power understood that the real game isn't physical, it's psychological. It's not just about what you do, but how people perceive you. This is where we go next. In the following section, we break down why power is nothing more than a carefully constructed illusion, and how those who master perception master everything. Power is a psychological game. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to command power effortlessly, while others struggle despite their authority? It's not about strength. It's not even about intelligence. Power is perception. It exists only if others believe in it. And those who understand this truth, who know how to control the minds of others, are the ones who shape the world. Machiavelli, Sun Tzu, and Robert Greene all knew this. The greatest leaders are not the strongest, but the most psychologically strategic. They don't force power upon people. They make people submit to it willingly. Most people think power is something tangible, something that can be taken or held. But true power doesn't work that way. It's an agreement, an unspoken contract between the leader and the people. The moment people stop believing in your authority, it disappears. History has shown us this time and time again. Marie Antoinette was the Queen of France, but the moment the people no longer believed in the monarchy, her power meant nothing. The Soviet Union, once a superpower, collapsed overnight when the illusion of control crumbled. CEOs, presidents, and dictators throughout history have learned this the hard way. When respect is lost, so is control. This is why perception is the real battlefield of power. If you can control how people see you, you control them. Robert Greene in the 48 Laws of Power lays out the foundation of this concept. Law 6, create an air of mystery. People respect what they don't fully understand. Reveal too much and they lose interest. Law 17, keep others in suspended terror. The unpredictable leader is the one people fear the most. Law 27, play on people's need to believe in something. Power isn't just about ruling, it's about making others want to follow you. This is why unpredictability is the ultimate weapon. If people can predict your next move, they stop respecting you. But if you keep them guessing, if they never quite know what you will do next, they will always stay on edge, always careful, always controlled. Have you ever noticed that the most powerful people in a room are often the ones who speak the least? That's not an accident. Silence is a weapon. Sun Tzu wrote, "When strong, appear weak. When weak, appear strong." A leader who speaks too much reveals their intentions, but a leader who remains silent forces others to reveal theirs. Miyamoto Musashi, the undefeated samurai, understood that control over emotions, over expression, was the key to victory. Even in modern politics and business, the most influential figures know that measured silence creates tension, and tension creates respect. If you're always talking, you're always explaining. And if you're always explaining, you're begging for acceptance. True authority is when people hang on to your words, not because you say much, but because you say little, with precision. True leaders don't just control situations, they control minds. Here's how. They remain unpredictable. Never reacting exactly as expected keeps others from manipulating them. They use absence strategically. By not always being available, they make their presence feel more valuable. They master body language. People believe confidence before they believe words. Authority is felt before it is spoken. This is why power is not about force. It is about perception, anticipation, and control over human psychology. But here's the price. The stronger you become, the more isolated you will be. True leaders walk a lonely path because power creates distance. In the next section, we uncover why the greatest figures in history were often alone, and why embracing that loneliness is the key to ultimate control. The hidden loneliness of power. Have you ever noticed that the most powerful people often stand alone? The further you rise, the fewer people can truly stand beside you. This isn't just a coincidence, it's a law of power. The price of control is isolation. Most people chase leadership, thinking it will bring them admiration, respect, even companionship. But the reality is far more brutal. The moment you step into true authority, you begin to walk alone. Power shifts relationships. When you hold authority, people don't see you as one of them anymore. They measure their words around you, they hesitate before acting, they either fear you or secretly resent you. This is why Julius Caesar was loved by the Roman people but had no true friends in the Senate. They feared his influence and conspired to end him. Napoleon Bonaparte, despite commanding millions, admitted, "I have no true friends, only those who fear or admire me." Friedrich Nietzsche wrote extensively about the loneliness of greatness, stating, "He who climbs upon the highest mountains laughs at all tragedies, real or imaginary." The truth is simple. When you rise above the crowd, you leave them behind. Many people fear solitude, but those who master it become unshakable. The greatest minds in history, philosophers, emperors, conquerors, embraced isolation because they understood that power is not about companionship, it is about control. Marcus Aurelius, despite ruling Rome, found his greatest strength in solitude and stoic reflection. Miyamoto Musashi, the undefeated samurai, lived in isolation, believing that true mastery required separation from ordinary distractions. Even in modern times, the most powerful CEOs and world leaders operate in circles where few can truly relate to them. Why? Because the higher you climb, the fewer people exist at your level. Power does not allow for blind trust. The more authority you hold, the more others will seek to manipulate, undermine, or betray you. Tsar Nicholas II of Russia trusted too easily. His own people turned against him. King Louis XVI believed his nobles would stand by him until they put him on trial. Countless corporate leaders have been betrayed by their closest advisors the moment weakness appeared. This is why true leaders trust few and reveal even less. They understand that power should never be shared with those who do not understand it. To hold power without being destroyed by it, you must become emotionally independent. This means never expecting loyalty, but always demanding respect. Understanding that admiration fades, but fear remains. Accepting that loneliness is not a weakness, it is a fortress. The moment you no longer need validation, you become untouchable. You move from seeking love to commanding respect, from craving approval to controlling perception. But power is not invincible. It is fragile, conditional, and always at risk. Even the greatest leaders can fall if they fail to maintain their image. In the next section, we break down why power is an illusion, how leaders rise, and more importantly, why they fall. The fragility of power. Why leaders fall. Have you ever noticed how even the most powerful rulers, CEOs, and conquerors eventually fall? No matter how strong they seem, no matter how feared or respected they are, their downfall always comes. Why? Because power is an illusion. It only exists as long as people believe in it. A leader is not powerful because they declare themselves so. They are powerful because others submit to that idea. But the moment doubt creeps in, the moment people stop believing in that authority, it begins to crumble like a house of sand. History is filled with figures who ruled with absolute dominance until they didn't. Their mistake. They believed power was permanent. Napoleon Bonaparte built an empire that stretched across Europe, but when his military failures exposed weakness, his soldiers and allies abandoned him. Julius Caesar, once adored by Rome, was seen as too powerful, too ambitious, and his own senators took his life. Adolf Hitler, feared by the world, lost his power the moment his army started losing battles. His own people turned against him. Power is never absolute. It is conditional. It must be protected, reinforced, and carefully controlled, or it will vanish. The tyrant's trap. When strength turns into weakness. One of the biggest mistakes leaders make is overusing fear. They believe that the more they tighten their grip, the safer they become. But history proves otherwise. Fear without balance creates rebellion. Joseph Stalin ruled with terror, but his paranoia made him purge even his closest allies, eventually isolating himself in fear of his own people. Muammar Gaddafi controlled Libya with brutality, but when his grip weakened, his own countrymen turned against him violently. Robespierre, a leader of the French Revolution, executed thousands to maintain control until the people decided he was next. Fear must be used wisely. Too much and it breeds hatred. Too little and it breeds weakness. The key to lasting power is balance. More often than not, leaders don't fall because of external threats. They fall because they lose control over their own perception. Some become too arrogant, believing they are invincible, ignoring the warning signs around them. Others grow too paranoid, seeing enemies in every shadow, making rash decisions that alienate their supporters. Some become complacent, forgetting that respect must be continuously reinforced or it fades. This is why power requires constant vigilance. The moment a leader stops controlling their own image, others will take that control from them. The greatest mistake any leader can make is believing that once they have power, they will always have it. But power is not something you own. It is something you maintain. You must always be strengthening your position, reinforcing respect, and staying ahead of those who seek to replace you. The moment you relax, the moment you assume you are untouchable, is the moment you begin to fall. So how do you maintain control? How do you ensure that power remains in your hands? By mastering the balance of fear, respect, and unpredictability. In the final section, we break down the ultimate strategies for sustaining power, how to remain unshakable, how to command respect without tyranny, and how to ensure your authority lasts. The final truth, mastering fear, respect, and strategy. Have you ever wondered why some leaders remain untouchable while others crumble the moment they face resistance? What separates those who sustain power from those who lose it overnight? The answer lies in mastering the balance of fear, respect, and strategy. We've explored how kindness alone leads to exploitation, how power is a psychological game, and how even the strongest rulers fall when they lose control of perception. Now we unveil the ultimate formula, the principles that ensure power not only lasts, but becomes untouchable. 1. The unpredictability principle, the most feared weapon. A leader who is predictable is a leader who can be controlled. The moment people know how you will react, they begin manipulating your decisions. The greatest rulers understood this. Uncertainty is power. Napoleon Bonaparte never let his enemies anticipate his moves, making his army nearly unstoppable. Vladimir Putin keeps global powers on edge because no one can predict his next move. Sun Tzu in The Art of War emphasized that a general must be formless, never allowing opponents to read his strategy. If they can't predict you, they can't control you. 2. The art of strategic praise, power through emotional control. Most people assume power comes only from fear, but the most powerful leaders know when to give recognition and when to withhold it. Julius Caesar gave his soldiers just enough praise to keep them loyal, but never so much that they felt they no longer needed him. Modern CEOs who rarely give compliments create an atmosphere where their approval is valuable, making employees work harder for it. A leader who praises too often becomes weak. A leader who never praises becomes hated. The key is precise, strategic praise, used only when it benefits your power. 3. Psychological warfare. The game of rivals. No leader exists without opposition. But here's the secret. Rivals are not always enemies. They are tools. Machiavelli advised rulers to keep their enemies close, allowing them to serve as examples of failure. Julius Caesar pardoned some of his enemies, using their public gratitude to reinforce his image of power. Even in modern politics, strong leaders allow opposition to exist, only to defeat them at the perfect moment, making their victory more legendary. Never eliminate all your rivals at once. Let them serve as proof of your dominance. 4. Mastering fear without creating hatred. As we've seen, fear is more reliable than love. But pure fear leads to rebellion. The most intelligent rulers understood that fear must always be paired with respect. Marcus Aurelius ruled Rome not by brute force, but by wisdom and control. His people feared disappointing him more than they feared his punishment. Genghis Khan conquered nations through terror, but those who submitted were rewarded, ensuring loyalty. Apple's Steve Jobs was known for his ruthlessness, but people respected his vision so much that they followed him regardless. Fear that comes with admiration creates unbreakable loyalty. Fear without respect creates enemies in the shadows. The leader's last question, love or control? At the end of everything, this is the ultimate question every leader must answer. Do you want to be loved or do you want to be in control? Those who seek love will always be at the mercy of emotions, approval, and shifting loyalties. Those who seek control, when done strategically, will always hold power in their hands. But the rarest, most powerful leaders of all, they master both. They understand the delicate balance. They are respected, slightly feared, and deeply admired. They do not seek validation. They demand it. Power is not owned. It is played. The moment you stop reinforcing it, you begin to lose it. Those who survive understand that authority is not a permanent gift. It must be carefully maintained, renewed, and sharpened. And now the choice is yours. Will you master the game, or will you be just another name in history, forgotten like the countless others who believed power would last forever?